Hey, Greg here, founder of WrestlingDivaz.webs.com, dedicated to highlighting the most beautiful and deadly entertainers in professional wrestling. My next special guest, although very young in her wrestling career, is already making waves for the Shine Wrestling promotion and the relaunched David McLean's Wow Women of Wrestling show. So I'd like to welcome new Wow superhero and competitor, Chloe Hertz, a.k.a. Katie Forbes. Hi, Katie. How are you today? Thanks for joining me.
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And I know this is like one of your first podcast audio interviews, so I really appreciate it. And thanks for joining me again.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I do have a lot of questions for you, but I first want to get your thoughts on the women's revolution, not only in just professional wrestling, but I think just in general, you're seeing within the past year or two, women getting a lot more spotlight in media and in forms of entertainment and sports because they're breaking a lot of boundaries and they're, doing a lot of different things that they haven't done before. And in wrestling, you're seeing that a lot with the WWE and everything that they're doing with the girls that they have now in Lucha Underground with the intergender matches that they're doing. So what are your thoughts on this whole shift, and what does it mean to you personally as someone who's pursuing that type of vision within your own life?
I love it because I train with guys, mostly men, and I love wrestling guys. And I love it because it shows that anything a man can do, a woman can do, and that's part of the reason I got into pro wrestling. And before pro wrestling, I did fitness competitions and bodybuilding to show that a woman can be as strong as a man or stronger. So I love how it's changed wrestling in the revolution. Definitely a positive thing for women.
So going to your career, I believe you debuted in 2015, and I believe Luke Hawx trained you, and he's a very well-seasoned veteran in this industry. I mean, I'm sure that you went into it with a certain set of expectations about athleticism and all that. You have a very deep athletic and sports background prior to wrestling. But as far as the people who you trained with, which were mostly men according to you, I mean, what was the perception of you walking into that building the first day of training? Because I'm sure that although you had very high ambitions and a very good athletic background, there was also a lot of people who may have doubted your abilities because, I mean, let's face it, women in this industry, despite what they're doing now, are held to a different standard than men because it's still a male-dominated business.
Right. My first day at the gym, the people were definitely very shocked, and I think that they think that I was going to quit after I did the conditioning because I did have to do the conditioning before I was allowed in the ring, and I was in better shape than a lot of the guys from my fitness background. And so I think that they thought once I started taking bumps and really getting in the ring that I wasn't going to last. So they didn't open up as easy, but then once they noticed I was in it for the long haul and I was tough and not complaining and, excited to be there, then they were a lot more welcoming. So I think that I definitely shocked them because when I got into wrestling, I did not start off as a wrestling fan growing up. I became a wrestling fan as an adult after meeting Luke Hawx. He had met me at the gym and invited me to go to a Wildcat show. And once I went to the show, I'd fallen in love with the sport. So I think that their idea was, since I didn't grow up with this as my dream to be a professional wrestler, they thought that I was going to quit.
So I'm sure I'm sure just because of your looks alone that people have a certain perception of who you are and what you're capable of and what your intentions are within the industry. So how do you approach that perception, and what's your take on how to rise above what that expectation is for you?
To prove them wrong. When people first meet me, because I am glamorous and I'm a girly girl, they automatically have that perception of me. So then I let my work in the ring and my work ethic speak for itself. That way they see that not only am I glamorous, but I'm tough too and hardworking.
So Luke Cox was one of your main trainers, and he introduced you to the business, and he's done a lot of different things within the stunt world, within the wrestling world. He did MTV's Wrestling Society X back in the day that a couple of my friends were on. So he has a very unique kind of style. As far as the way that he trained you and the way that you took the physicality, how did you incorporate that with your background? And what do you do as far as the psychology of putting on a show to mix the glamour with also the athleticism of not taking any BS from the guys?
Well, my character, I twerk a lot. I have a glamorous entrance. I do splits on the ropes when I come in. Then I do like a upside down twerk. And so that's how I show off my girliness and sex appeal. But then my in-ring shows off my athletic ability. So I try to put all that together for one package.
So as far as what you're up to now, I know that you recently debuted for the Wild Women of Wrestling promotion that's on a relaunch, and that got started, at least the relaunch did, in 2013, and of course it had its show back on UPN around 2000, 2001. I've actually met David. He's a nice guy, and I know that Jeannie Buss is also behind the show as a producer. How did that opportunity come about? And I didn't see the show personally because I wasn't in Los Angeles at the time, but your character stuck out to me just by its entrance. So can you explain, without going through any red tape, what your character is all about?
There is Chloe Hertz, and Chloe Hertz is all about herself. My tagline is it's Chloe time and Miss All Natural. And so I did have an awesome entrance. I was carried in by 6 muscle guys in underwear, and so they carried me to the ring and took my robe for me, and it was really glamorous. So yeah, Chloe's just all about herself and can get any man in the world that she wants. So that's why I have the muscle guys carrying me.
So as far as being a part of that promotion, because it is one of the few women wrestling promotions that's been on international television or standard television rather before, what does it mean to be a part of that whole family? And I've had a lot of former and current WOW superstars on the show, and I also watched it as a kid. So what does it mean to you to be a part of an all-female federation?
It's awesome. I love it. It's awesome working with David and Santana. She's my friend, and she's a part of it too. So I have Barbie Hayden, who's Abilene Maverick on there. So it was awesome working with everybody and training and to be a part of that show too, because I used to watch Glow, and David McLean started Glow. And, it was an awesome promotion. It was awesome show. Is a great experience. So I'm really excited to be a part of it.
So as far as you getting into the industry rather late, because a lot of people grow up watching wrestling and know the superstars in the business and the industry before they go into training. Small population doesn't, but that's more rare. As far as the whole looking over the history and everything like that, how do you study the industry while you're pursuing the business yourself?
By watching wrestling. So just watching it and studying it and learning about it and training has been the way to just learn about it. Because I just got into it 2 years ago is when I had met Luke, and he invited me, and I started training the next month. So, yeah, since then I just do a lot of research by watching wrestling, old and new, studying up on it, and I train too at several different schools to learn different styles as well.
So, I mean, you could have easily stuck to fitness competition or any sort of other athletic endeavor that you've been a part of. But why wrestling above something, let's say, like mixed martial arts or karate or something like that? What was the appeal of wrestling that drew you to it?
Because in wrestling, you get to show a lot more personality, character, so I can show my girly side, twerk, show personality, be glamorous with the costumes, but then also I get to show my fitness side, how strong I am, my work ethic, and also, like I was saying earlier, that anything a man can do, a woman can do. So that I can be glamorous and beautiful, but also I can kick ass and out-wrestle a lot of the guys. So I like it because it's everything in one. I feel like if I did maybe like MMA or another sport like that, it would just be the sport. I want to be able to show my personality in it too. So I like the showy part as well and putting on a show, and I love entertaining.
So when you were going through your training with Luke, I'm sure that you expected wrestling to be painful. And, I've spoken to people that were like, oh, I didn't expect it to be that painful, or, oh, I was this close to quitting because my body was so hurt and the injuries piled up a lot faster than I expected them to. How do you stick with it as far as training goes? Because I'm sure that it's very tough to put your body through that day after day and then resume whatever normal life you have.
Yeah, I was definitely shocked when I first started. And that's why I hate when people say wrestling is fake, because then when I first started taking bumps, everything, my body, of course, wasn't used to that impact. And it was very painful, and it still is. But it's just a part of it, and that's kind of what I like it, because then if you're not strong enough and you're not really about that life, if you can't take the pain, then you get out of the business. So it leaves it just to people that really are tough enough to do it.
So moving forward, because you are very young in your career, but you've managed to do a lot in that time frame. I know that you recently got back from a trip to India. Where would you like to see yourself progress, not only as far as how many career highlights or titles you hold, but as far as if you were in an ideal situation as far as how your character was seen or how you were seen as a person, where would you like to end up?
Where would I like to end up as in promotion-wise?
Or just like in general, as far as your career of this is how I want to be remembered.
I just want to keep traveling. That's what I love about wrestling too, is getting to see the world, because normally India is not a place that I would choose to go visit, and this was my second tour over there. And so I love that part about it, getting to see the world, meet people, and get better, become a better wrestler as I go on. So it's fun, because then when I do new things in the ring at nighttime, then I feel like it's hard to sleep because I'm so excited about stuff that I learned. And after the match, I love the feeling. That's the best adrenaline rush. So to continue this feeling, get better, and keep traveling would be the goal.
So a lot of people debate about this in terms of wrestling being a sport but also entertainment at the same time. As far as, you being a character, you explained what your character is all about and what you like to do as far as showing your feminine side. But also a lot of people like to watch the physical end of it as well. I mean, do you think that the physicality should take precedent over the entertainment side, or one over the other? I mean, how do you see that? How do you should you find a balance, or should you do one or the other? I mean, what's your take on that?
I think balance, because there's time for both of them. So in the match, there's times, when to be a badass, and then there's times when you can shake your ass. It's like in the beginning, my entrance shows my character that I'm feminine, I like to dance, I'm glamorous, I can have any man in the world I want, whatever it is. Then in the ring, then people can see my athletic abilities, so they get both of that. So I think it's good to have a balance of it.
So as far as what you do physically in the ring, I mean, if you were to describe your style in terms of not only what you would like to do, but how the audience perceives you as a competitor, how would you describe your style?
I've been learning new styles. I train at Wildcat under Luke in New Orleans. And so I train there, American style, and then also I train in California to learn lucha style as well. So I try to just mix it all up, and I do a lot of high-flying things as well. So I like to do things off the ropes and tumbling. I'm actually at the gymnastics gym right now, so I used to be a cheerleader, so I have a cheerleading tumbling background, so I like to mix that in there as well.
And as far as, I remember I was watching your Tough Enough video the other day, and you said that you wanted to inspire women to really be headstrong and to tackle anything that a man does and, push all those boundaries. But as far as how a woman enters the wrestling industry, for those who may be unfamiliar, I mean, how would you guide that person, and what advice would you give her?
To be confident in yourself and to be yourself and don't care what anybody says or thinks about you. And that's kind of how I lived my life, and I've always just done what I want, and it's worked out for me so far, not caring about what anybody says and just doing what I think is best for me in my life. So if a girl, I have a lot of fans that ask me, what I think about how they should get into wrestling, and I just say to be yourself, really, and be yourself in the ring and let your true personality shine through, and people will love it because they can tell that it's authentic. Real knows real.
So, I mean, a lot of people understand and see to a sense the physical end of wrestling and the entertainment side, but there's also a lot of behind-the-scenes things that fans don't understand because, they aren't wrestlers themselves or they haven't broken into the business yet. And there can also be a lot of politics and judgments about looks and how, tall you are and how thin you are or how fit you are and all these different aesthetics. I mean, as far as dealing with all that, because the industry can be pretty brutal. I mean, anything in entertainment can be pretty straightforward and brutal about all these different aspects. I mean, how do you approach that? Do you, like, your character almost, do you, like, not care, or what do you do to make sure that you don't take any of that part?
I just don't take anything too serious that people say in their opinions, because different strokes for different folks. Some people may like skinny girls, some people may like curvy girls, some like short, some like tall. You are who you are, regardless of what they say. So just do you, really, and then their opinion doesn't matter, because how many people don't like you? There'll be way more that do, just when you're yourself, because people admire you being yourself. Because a lot of people care too much what people think, especially in show business, so they put on a front. But, if you just do you, that's all you can do at the end of the day. And if they don't like it, at least you're weeding out people that shouldn't be in your life.
As far as you getting into wrestling at this point in your life and watching all the people that you have, who do you draw inspiration from? I'm sure that there are some people, whether it's WWE or the independents, that you really look up to. For people who are unfamiliar with your career, and I know this is a pretty general question, but who do you kind of look at as far as your role models in the industry?
Who do I look up to? Well, my favorite is my boyfriend, Rob Van Dam, because I love his moveset. I like high flying and flips and everything like that. So before I had even met him, he was my favorite just from his moveset, and his character is really who he is in real life. Like I was saying, just be yourself. And so, yeah, I look up to him.
How does he, because, I mean, RVD is, a legend in the industry. I mean, I'm trying to think of something that he hasn't done. How does he kind of guide you throughout this? He has such a wealth of knowledge. I'm sure that anybody in the industry especially would do anything to kind of learn from him.
What was the question? Sorry, it was breaking up.
How does RVD guide you within the industry as far as advice or training, as far as, sort of gathering from his wealth of knowledge? Because there isn't something in the industry. I mean, he's done everything in this industry.
Yeah, he's definitely someone to learn from. But, yeah, he gives me advice, asks me questions, and guides me through the show business side of it, business side of it. And, yeah, sometimes we train. So he's somebody that I definitely enjoy learning from.
So before we wrap up and get to how fans can contact you, when your career has run its full course and, you're very young and you just started, so I don't see that happening anytime soon, what do you want to be remembered for by the fans? I mean, I'm sure that you have a certain legacy that you want to kind of either be remembered for or leave behind. So what is it that you want fans to remember about you?
Remember Katie Forbes, the baddest in the game, and the hottest woman in pro wrestling. And remember me by my work ethic.
So I know that you're very active on social media. You have multiple platforms that you post to every day, just so that fans aren't confused or they don't go into anything that's, fake. How do fans contact you, whether they have a question or someone wants to book you?
It's Instagram, The Katie Forbes, Twitter, The Katie Forbes, and on Facebook, it's Katie Forbes Barbie Badass, and Badass is spelled Babazz. So it's The Katie Forbes, Forbes like the magazine.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Katie, and I really appreciate it. I think that you're just scratching the surface within your career, and I think that you have a very bright future ahead of you. So I really appreciate your time, and thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone else for joining me. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Wrestling Divaz, again, or visit the website at www.wrestlingdivaz.webs.com for more updates and all the latest posts.